In this video, I want to talk a little bit about notation and how we describe vectors in pre-cal, and then how I describe them, or how the world of IB describes them. And since I teach both, I kind of go back and forth between some, and I'm also going to encourage my pre-cal students to look at some of my IB videos, which have a slightly different notation. Okay, so as we get started here, we often we'll have a vector and we'll describe it by its components. So how far it moved in the x direction and then how far it moved in the y direction. And so this becomes the vector xy. You could think about it, if this right here were sitting at the origin, and this is the point 0, 0 right here, this becomes the point x, comma, y. So there's a few different notations. First of all, when it asks for a vector, you need to give them a vector and not a coordinate, okay? So points you've been seeing for, that's t, you've seen for years, and they'd have parentheses like that. That's the point xy. Vectors, however, are not written in the same notation. In IB, the IB way of writing it is to kind of write it a little bit like a matrix, and so then they would do the x and then the y on top like that. In pre-cal, they use what my kids have called over the years pointices, because they look like parentheses, but they're kind of pointy. Now notice they're not the same. This notation is not the same as a point. So if they say, when they ask the question, what's the coordinate, that's when you write it in the point notation. When they ask you what's the vector to get to that point, that's when you write it either in the IB format here or the pre-cal format. There's another way that we can write it, which let me show you that one. So if my vector is on, say it's here on this plane, I have gone 3 units in my x and 2 units in my y. We also have what we call a unit vector. Okay, and then we have, as mathematicians, decided that the vector I is always equal to just moving 1 unit in the x direction. Okay, so in pre-cal we would write that as 1, comma 0 like this. In IB we would write it as 1, 0 this way. We also have a unit vector in the j direction, and that is when we move 1 unit in the y. Did I say x earlier? Okay, I don't know what I said, but this one, I is moving 1 unit in the x direction, j is moving 1 unit in the y direction. And so you could say it's the vector 0, 1. And so it's just going something like this. So what we can do is we can take this vector here that I've now written all on top of, and we're noticing that we're going 1, 2, 3 in the x direction, and 1, 2 in the y direction. So this vector right here, this is what we call unit vector form. This becomes the vector 3i plus 2j. Okay, sometimes we put the little vector symbol on top, and sometimes we get efficient and forget to put it there. But that's another way to describe that vector right here. It's gone 3 units in the x direction and 2 units in the y direction, and there's the vector.